Hi, and thank you for joining me today on Geezers of Gear, episode number 217. Today's podcast is brought to you by Act Entertainment. Debuting this year at LDI, the new Lunchbox PD line from AC Power Distribution is a simple, compact, and efficient solution that brings power and data distribution together in a new but familiar form factor. Whether you are expanding a data network along existing power distribution or bringing wireless data exactly where it's needed, the power and data configurations you need can be achieved together, all inside the durable, compact, and proven Lunchbox form factor with which you are already familiar. If you haven't had a chance to see this yet, please reach out to Act Entertainment for a chance to check it out, or visit www.actentertainment.com. And this episode is also brought to you by GearSource.com. GearSource was founded in 2002 with a mission to help global live events businesses move gear around the planet. Since that time, the company has transacted in more than 100 countries, selling over $250 million in sound, lighting, staging, and video gear. Now, GearSource has completely evolved its platform for massive global growth, enabling 14 different localized currencies, payments held in escrow to protect buyers and sellers, AI-powered logistics behind a new global logistics brand called Gear Moves, and so much more. Please visit GearSource.com today and expand your access to global markets for your gear and global gear for your markets. Hi there. Hello again. It's me. And so, one of the things I forgot to bring up on the promos today is Coffee Cult. And of course, Coffee Cult is a really great cup of coffee. And again, I talk about it all the time. I love the coffee, I think it's fabulous. But beyond that, they support our industry through giving back all of the proceeds from every purchase that's made of Geezer's Grind coffee. And so, again, it's the coffee I drink every day. A lot of people in our industry now drink it every day. It's a great blend. It's sort of really strong, but not too strong because it's a mixture of dark and medium. And again, the money goes to Roby Backstage, which supports, fallen individuals or individuals who need help in our industry. And so it's a good cause. It's a great coffee. I do know that Roby, this isn't a competitive thing at all. One of the other largest moving light companies out there last week sent me, a picture of them restocking their coffee machine at the office with Geezer's Grind coffee. So get involved. Definitely go to coffeecult.com, K's, coffee with a K, cult with a K.com, search for Geezer's Grind. I think if you buy 2 bags, you end up with free shipping and you'll get all kinds of discounts offered to you and stuff. So, yes, it's a little more expensive than your Folgers or Maxwell House, but it's really, really good coffee. Better than anything else I've tried. So give it a try, support our industry, and I appreciate you. Thanks. Hello, Emily. How are you?
Hi, doing well. How are you today?
Jeez.
I
All right.
second that.
Yeah, don't make me answer that. It's been a day. It's been a month in a day. It's I've gone through some weird times over the past 12 months, and some days are really, really fun, and some days you just wake up and, it's like, what happened? Like, I feel like I got run over by 12 trucks today. And yeah, so today's been sort of one of those mornings, I think.
Yeah, I've been feeling this thing called, like, I'm calling it a work hangover,
Ah,
where you wake up in the morning and you're like, did I send those emails last night? Like, what did I advance last night? Like,
yeah,
what happened? Like, did I do that on the drawing yet? Like, it's
yeah.
like a work hangover. There's just so much going on, you forget in the morning what you've
Emily,
done in the last
you're
24 hours.
young. Wait till you're in your 50s because that's just every day. That's every
It's not
morning.
too far away.
Yeah, every morning you're checking like, did I brush my teeth last night? Did I eat dinner? What did I have for dinner? I don't remember that. Did I feed the dog yesterday?
I have those moments now where it's like, did I have granola for breakfast today? Did I eat breakfast today? That was
Yeah.
only 2 hours ago. I don't know.
Yeah. No, it's wild,
I
but
I can't wait.
yeah. I mean, well, you can wait.
Yeah.
Plus it's like something different hurts every day. And it's, all the old people stuff that you see when you're young, you experience when you start getting older. You're like, what is that? Like, I never had that before. Like, a few days ago, it was this thing on my nose. And I asked my girlfriend, I'm like, did I like walk into a wall or something? Like, what happened? It looks like it's swollen and stuff. And she goes, no, that's just age. I'm like, get out of here. Jesus. So yeah, there are some of those that's just age things happening for sure.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for coming and doing this. I appreciate it. I know you're not a geezer and you're like a geezette. To be honest, another designer, I believe Sooner was the first female that I ever had on the podcast. And, we made a lot of fun of the fact that she wasn't old and she wasn't, a crusty old, you know, white guy like what's usually on my podcast.
I was
And
joking with friends about wearing a bald cap and smoking a cigar and like a fake
oh, that would
beard
have
or a
been fun.
mustache.
That would have
Yeah.
been fun. Yeah, you
Yeah.
could have pretended to be a geezer.
Geezed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's all good. It's just a name of a podcast. It has nothing to do with the people we have on. And so I appreciate you doing it. I love when we can get someone younger and less male. Is always fun. So um, you know, I mean, I love to start pretty much every episode with talking about really your foundation and the beginning of it all. And I know you haven't. How long has your career been in lighting so far?
About 20 years.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're older than I pegged you at. Like
Yes.
I had you at a much younger age than a 20-year career so far. I thought you'd say, well, geez, it's coming up on 10. So 20 years is a
My
long
tour
career already.
my touring career is over 10 years already. I was working in
Wow.
warehouse before that. I'm approaching the F words of age
Yeah.
very
Nice.
rapidly, like this summer. So,
Ooh, wow. And
yeah.
I'm exiting the F words this summer. So, like I'm hitting a hard one this summer. So that's going to be exciting. Um, so yeah, congratulations. We'll have to,
Thank you.
have a virtual clink at some point and 20 years apart. Um, it's funny too because my son is he's turning 20 this year. So, the numbers are always really easy when you can go, well, I'm 40 years older than you, kid.
Yeah.
I wish it wasn't that easy, but how'd you get your start? Like, I think you had a more formal start than a lot of the people that I get on the podcast who are, very informal, where it's just literally by accident or in a pub, having a beer with mates in a pub, and the guy next to him says, "Yeah, I'm a tour manager. Would you like a gig?" And next thing you know, he's the production manager for AC/DC, which I believe was a true story, which was told on Geezers. But what was your foundation?
The very beginning was very similar. I started in theater in high school or middle school even. I had friends who were like, "Oh, we're going to rehearse, try out for this thing. You want to come along?" And I was like, okay. And then I ended up making costumes.
Hmm.
Middle school was making costumes, went into high school, kept making costumes, ended up going to the New York State Theater Institute my senior year.
Okay.
So I was interning full time at a union theater, and I was still studying wardrobe and costuming. And I realized that, this hobby I had, this fun thing I did, is an actual career and it's unionized and can become a thing. At that point, I had already locked in for FIT to study fashion design. So I studied fashion design for a year and then took a year off, transferred back into theater school, and
This
yeah,
is all
started
a
learning.
strange route to lighting design for Demi Lovato, right? Like none of
Yeah.
this makes sense
Well,
so far, but go on, please.
I actually ended up hemming her pants for her at a show the other month because the
No
wardrobe
way.
girl didn't know how to sew, and I was like, "I used to study fashion design and I used to do wardrobe." Like, I was dressing Fashion Week by the age of 18.
Wow.
So I was hemming Demi's pants while she was wearing them about 20 minutes before she hit the stage.
Oh my God. Well,
Yeah.
that made you popular at that moment, I would think. You know, when you can
Yes.
solve a problem that nobody else can. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool.
So it's coming handy,
Yeah,
that fashion background,
yeah.
and that's really how I started getting into, costume and wardrobe and theater, and went to college and I wanted to study audio because I played music. So I was like, "Oh, I want to do this audio thing," and I was awful at audio. But I still was pursuing that.
Yeah.
And then graduated still wanting to do audio, and I was working as a local stagehand and kept getting put in lighting and just kind of, cling to it at some point,
Why
accepted
audio
that,
though? Just because you liked music and that seemed sensible?
yeah, it was a way to connect to the music and the thing that I enjoyed about what I do. Because I enjoyed the lighting part of what I do, but I really love the music.
Hmm.
So I
And
try to approach lighting as an instrument.
I was going to say, did you ever play an instrument? Were you ever a musician? Did you ever have a desire to be a musician?
I knew that I didn't have a future in it, but I enjoyed doing it. Like
Yeah,
I was good
kind of
enough,
like
and
me.
yeah,
I had no
like
future in it, but
I played saxophone, guitar, bass. I sang. I was in a bunch of local bands, marching band,
hmm,
all the bands. Yeah.
cool. Interesting. So you're trying to pursue audio, you're a stagehand, and then what happened?
I kept getting put in lighting, and I kept fighting it, and I made friends with one of the roadies, and he was like, "Emily, you're good at lights. Just accept it. Like
Hmm.
this is the thing you do. Like this is your thing, lighting." And I was like, "I guess it is." The light bulb literally went off, and
Yeah.
started pursuing that.
Oh, really? And it was that
Yeah,
easy. It was very organic. Hey, why
yeah,
don't you just do this? Like, you're pretty good at it. Okay.
yeah.
So,
And from there, it's grown into drafting and doing scenic design and video work. So I do a lot of content work and
so
very
in the beginning, it was just through
disciplined.
like IATSE or something. You were just getting gigs, like helping out, as a stagehand or whatever, doing lighting. And how did that become design? Like, and even programming, was that just
Yeah, it's
natural
just an
progression?
evolution of,
Yeah.
yeah, because being local and meeting all these different roadies, they understand that you know what you're doing, and eventually you start saying, "I want to do what you do."
Hmm.
And when they need someone on a crew, they keep trying to put your name and number in. I really lucked out, and I got put on a job in New York babysitting a floor package for this guy, Butch Allen, who I'd never
Oh,
heard of at the time.
really?
Had no idea what I was walking into. And, we're working. He's like, "You get it. Do you want a tour?" And I was like, "I will believe that when I see a plane ticket." And a week
Hmm.
later, I had a phone call from a vendor, and I was on a tour.
Really? One of
Yeah,
his tours.
one of his tours.
What band was it?
Big Time Rush.
Wow.
Yeah.
What a friggin' great start that is.
Yeah.
Butch is such a
Right
great
time,
dude.
right place. Yeah, I'm phenomenally just so blessed to have run into him and made that connection, made that friendship, and
Yeah.
he's still one of my mentors. I go to him when I have issues now.
Recording yesterday with Nick Whitehouse, his name came up, and we were talking about just being innovative, and I always saw Butch as incredibly innovative, like just not doing things the same way everybody else was doing them, And
Yeah.
he had the band Garbage one time, and I think I had provided some lights to it through Martin or something. I don't even remember. But I went to see it, and I think it was in maybe Santa Monica or something, somewhere in LA. And he had these floor lights that were like uplighting the band, and they were I was like, wow, what are those? Are those like, I'm naming off different things that they might have been, and he goes, nope, 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 nope. And I said, what are those? And he said they're Home Depot work lights. And they were like literally Home Depot work lights with orange gels on them or something. And they just looked incredible. And the fixture itself looked really incredible on the stage, too. So, it was just that kind of thing that I always loved about any designer. But Butch always did weird shit like that. He always
Yeah. Last
found
year
something.
I was on the New Kids on the Block tour last year, and there's this one song where Donnie wanted just lasers. He was like, "This is weird, like just follow me on this." He just wanted lasers. So Kat programmed this, really awesome kind of it was very minimal lighting, and like I had to go into moments of lighting, and the laser programming was amazing. And they had these flashlights, and they were hunting flashlights. So we just had these big hunting flashlights. The guys were lighting each other with these hunting flashlights that you pick up,
That's so cool.
Yeah. So it
That's
was a
so
very
cool.
interesting concept, and it
Yeah, I
worked
like
out.
that kind of stuff. Nick really likes that kind of stuff too. So that's I think what got us into talking about it. Like, same recently I had Rob Koenig on, and the towers that he used on Metallica last year or this year or whenever it's been. And again, another very cool thing. I mean, it was a cool way to deal with the stadium tour concept where you could either have the big claw thing from U2,
From you too.
or you had to do something different, right? And he did something different. And I don't know if it was him or Dan Braun that came up with that stuff, but somehow between them, they came up with those towers, and another really cool concept. So, yeah, I like that stuff. Let me ask you, though, the whole woman thing, being a woman in lighting or being a female in lighting, a girl at one point, I guess. You were a young woman.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm old school. So to me, like, I always looked at it as women got it easier because, a production manager is not going to yell at a woman. A production manager is not going to yell at a woman. He's not going to
Oh my
beat
God.
your ass or hit you with a piece of pipe or something. Whereas with a
I
man,
mean,
you're just going to get
I-
abused to hell physically
and
too,
that
right?
in that in that aspect, I guess we got it easier, but it was
That's the
the
only angle I was
mental.
shooting at. Everything else is
Oh
harder.
man, it
Yeah.
was definitely not easier. I mean, doors are opening up now. Women
Yeah.
are being accepted into these positions and roles more readily, which is
Which is really
amazing, and I love
cool.
seeing that.
No, I mean, every time I'm at a show and either front of house or backstage or something, there's so many females now that are on crews. And I love that. Like, that's really cool. Like, to me, people are people. And I don't, that's why the whole diversity thing is different to me because I don't really notice that stuff very often, right? Like, I wouldn't go, it's a female lighting designer. Oh my goodness. I would never
Is
say
that
that.
allowed?
Yeah. Like,
Yeah, it's and I hate because the woman topic for me is like it's cringy. Like I don't hate talking about it, but I hate talking about it if that makes sense.
yeah,
Because I
yeah.
hate
So let's talk about it
highlighting
more
that.
then.
Yes. So about being a woman,
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
it needs to be talked about,
yeah,
but I hate that it does.
yeah. No, I agree
It's
with you.
I when I show up to work, I don't go, I'm a woman going to work. I go to work. Like when I go
Yeah.
to work, I go to work. I do the gig. I just show up,
By the
and
way,
I
that's
don't
how I look at it.
exactly like I don't make it a thing of like, well, I am a woman and I'm doing this. And it's hard because I do moderate a group on Facebook of women in the industry, and like I am
Hmm.
kind of one of the faces of women in the industry right now, and it's
Yeah.
a weird place for me to be because I don't want to highlight it, but I know it has to happen.
Well, here's the thing, though. I think it's an important role, and here's why. It's not to make employers, more present or whatever necessarily. It's to make young girls
Yeah.
understand that, hey, this is an option for you. You can go on tour the world with a rock band and, be a lighting person or a sound person or a rigger or a whatever, right? Like this is a cool option for a career. And
Yeah.
so I think it's more of an education of that side of the crowd than, trying to force feed employers on the fact that, hey, you need to hire more women, which is sort of the thing that I don't like. I don't like that
Yeah.
when it comes to any of these battles. Like you don't force one side to like the other side more. You just try and
And
educate people.
being hired because I'm a woman is also kind of insulting. Because there's
Yeah,
definitely been
I
some
would agree
jobs that
with
have
that.
come up where like we're looking for a female to do this. I'm like, are you looking at my qualifications or like what's between my legs? Because
Yeah.
I want to get hired because I'm the right person for this project. I want to get hired because you saw my work and you liked it. You're like, I want to
Yeah.
get hired for the work I do and not so much
And
because
hopefully that's
I,
the case. Hopefully that's,
hopefully.
you know, I have the same problem with my incredible good looks. You know, sometimes I get hired just because I'm beautiful.
It's good to have a pretty face on the show. Someone's got to
Jeez,
do it, so thank
that made
you.
me choke. It was so bad. Uh, but no, I completely agree with you. Like I would hate that too. Like, you know, I know, uh, there's a lot of people who sort of struggle with, you know, is this happening to me because I'm beautiful, or is this happening to me because I don't have that particular problem, but you know, I know that
Well,
there are a
it's
lot
more
of
the
people who
diversity
do.
hire issue, you know, like, am I the diversity
Exactly.
hire? Do they need
Yeah.
more representation or are they hiring me because they want someone who knows what they're doing?
Yeah. You know, I'm sure you're not a motorsports fan, but you could have this conversation with Sooner, because there's a real big push right now in motorsports right now to promote female drivers. And my son is a professional race car driver. He's a male. And it drives him crazy because it's not based on talent. It's not based on hard work or effort. It's not based on anything other than what's between your legs. And um, they're not disadvantaged in motorsports. You know, it's not
Yeah.
like wrestling or football or any of those things where strength is separates you. Like, you know,
Yeah.
obviously you need
There's
to
obvious
separate those.
differences, yeah.
But to create female driving classes or you know, different race programs or whatever, because you have female drivers over here and you have, there's no need to separate them. You never have. History hasn't. There have been very good female drivers. And so it's a little bit frustrating that they are, you know, and it hasn't worked, by the way. It really hasn't been a very popular direction. But, you know, I guess when I was asking you about the difficulties, it had nothing to do with the diversity side of it, more like the reality of being abused by a bunch of nasty men or buses. You know, I always think of, you
Yeah,
know, the busing situation. What's that like, you know? And,
it's
uh,
actually weirder now being on buses with more women. Like, it's
oh,
weird for
really?
me because I
Huh.
mean, I grew up, I have 3 brothers. I was the girl with 3 brothers. So I was
Yeah.
used to growing up with guys and like what that entails.
Yeah. I
And
was the opposite. The
yeah.
boy with 3 sisters.
Yeah, so I went into touring very comfortably, and for me, like, there's gonna be the old school guys of like, oh, a woman can't do this, but for the most part, I ended up getting all these big brothers.
Huh.
You know, if anything happened, then it was like, hey, are you having a problem? Is that guy giving you a problem? Even at a
Yeah.
bar. Oh,
Yeah.
there's this one time we were out at a bar in Oklahoma City, and we were out. It was late, and it was a bunch of us playing pool and like just having a good time, and this guy at the bar was talking to me, and I was like, you know, just trying very nicely to be like, I'm here with my friends. And when I went to leave, and he followed me out.
Ooh.
And the guys saw that I was touring with, and so my touring brothers like followed behind and ended up like punching the guy
Ooh.
to like in yeah, like they ended up like helping me out of a very bad situation that I wasn't even trying to get into.
Yeah.
Um,
That's
so it's
cool.
been very nice to have brothers, yeah.
Yeah. That's cool. Yeah. So, you know, again, I like when I was joking when I said, you know, that I always thought it might be easier for a woman, but in reality, like, again, just the fact that sometimes you might be treated more sensitively than a man would. So, in other words, if you made a mistake, it wouldn't be, "Hey, you stupid rah, 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 idiot."
Oh,
Rah, rah,
I
rah, rah."
still got that.
Oh, really?
I still
Oh,
got
wow.
that. Yes.
See, I'd have a hard
Touring
time
is
talking to a woman
touring
like
is
that.
still
You know, I just
touring.
would.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. If any, God, I've had some really insensitive crew chiefs who talk to me like that for fixing things.
Hmm.
You know, like it. Yeah. So I mean, I've definitely dealt with all sorts of sides of that coin. You
Yeah.
know, like, oh well, that's what we do. Like, don't worry about that. Like, we have guys who take care of that. Like, why would you climb? You know, that's what the guys are for.
Yeah.
And you know, being reprimanded for trying to do my job.
Yeah. So it sounds to me like you've managed to create a really healthy situation where you haven't forced people to treat you like the dainty woman on the tour or whatever. Like you just want to be one of the gang,
Yeah.
and they've accepted you as that. That's
And
cool.
part of that, it comes from being the technician first.
Yeah.
You know, like a lot of the younger generation gets out of college with a design degree and they're like, I'm going to be a designer. And it's like, yeah, but I mean, it's nice to get your hands dirty and get that respect and understand what your technicians are going through. And yeah, very frequently make this mistake where I talk about my past and I say I was just a tech on that tour.
Hmm.
And it's unfair of me to say just because the techs do so much work and I can't do my job without them doing their job.
Yeah.
And it's an important role, and a lot of design students don't really understand that or appreciate that.
Yeah.
And with me, with my crews, I don't ask them to do anything that I haven't done myself. You know,
Yeah.
like if I want you to climb up in that thing and do that really awful, god awful thing, I've done that. Like I've done that 10 times. I've done it in the rain. Like I've done it,
Yeah.
with an injured, hands or whatever,
This
touring
is all good
situation has
character
happened.
stuff, you know. I mean, it's like, you've been willing to get your hands dirty. You've worked your way up through the ranks, and yeah. So, I mean, that to me, when you earn your stripes and you don't just walk in and say, "I'm a designer. I have a fancy degree from a fancy school or whatever," where you know people treat you differently, and they probably should, right, at that point. But no, that's all really cool. So just to stay on this woman in lighting thing for a minute, you are sort of part of that group, right? The women in lighting group, and um, again, I mean, I think it's important for different reasons than I think what a lot of people think it's important for. I don't think there's a need to force diversity right now from a woman's standpoint, because I don't know of anybody who wouldn't employ women to design a show or to direct a show or to run follow spots on a show or to whatever. Maybe once you get into the tech side of things, there's going to be some weirdness with some people who are, a little like, oh, well, a woman couldn't possibly, climb a truss and, hang upside down and fix something or whatever, right?
They're
But
definitely going to be more organized about plugging things in though and taking directions
yeah,
and
that's true, huh?
yeah,
That's true. So, didn't you spoke at LDI this year, didn't you?
I did, yeah.
And was that on this
Um,
topic?
well, I did four programming sessions, and then I did one with women in lighting. And for that, it was, a choose your own topic. And I hate, like I said, I hate talking about being a woman working, so I just talked about working.
Yeah.
So I did it about like my design process on things and kind of
Oh,
approached it
cool.
from like I'm a teaching about my process, and so I
And
spoke
so
about
was it all
that.
men in the crowd or all women in the crowd, I should say, or was it a mixed crowd?
It was primarily women, but there were a few guys there. My
Yeah.
old college tech director actually came and sat in
Oh,
on
that's
it,
cool.
so it was nice to see him. My
That's really
brother was
nice.
there. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's cool. And you were in the act entertainment thing, right?
Yeah.
I think you
The
were a judge
programming
in the
contest.
contest. Yeah.
Yes.
How was that? That seemed like a really cool idea.
Yeah, it's not the first time they've done it because we
Right.
did it 2 years ago. They might have done it the year before, but I might not have judged it. But it's been an ongoing thing, and I really love that they're trying to promote college kids learning the console.
Yeah.
And it's really fun to see what the kids are coming up with kids, sorry. What the young students are coming up with
Yeah.
and how they're approaching the rigs differently and kind of seeing that. And it's great because we also get to offer feedback, whether it's about design things, and we get to open up their show file and like look around what's under the hood and see like how they built it and help kind of
Are there any super
nudge some
positive
old
surprises? Like, are the youth today coming up with some really innovative new ways of doing things, or
It's not new, but it's interesting to see how they approach the same rig very differently because they're all given
huh.
the same lighting rig. So to see how 10 different people approach the same group of lights is always really kind
Oh,
of
that's
interesting.
that's
Like,
a cool way to do it. Yeah.
yeah, or like the different focus positions they come up with and like how they use it. It's in their groupings. It's fun to see that creativity.
And what does winning mean? Uh, do they get money? What do they get?
Oh, I forget what the prize is. I think their school gets one of the consoles or and they get Viz
Ooh,
keys or something
Jesus.
like that. Yeah, like it's a pretty
That's a big prize.
yeah.
Yeah.
But the big thing is that it also helps put them on the radar for designers and programmers who are looking for their next gen
Huh.
folks. Like those contests are always a great way for us to see like, who the new talent is.
Yeah.
Like if you need a lighting director, who knows the console.
That's
You
cool.
gotta get to see that. Yeah.
You also got nominated for the Parnellis this year too, right? Or for a
Yes, I
Parnelli,
did. A
like
Pernelli,
lighting director.
lighting director.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
Yeah. So when do you find out if you're the winner?
At the dinner, I guess? I haven't
Really?
heard anything.
Oh,
Yeah,
so they
I
don't
haven't
tell you in
heard
advance? They don't
anything
give you a nod or anything?
unless I didn't win and they've already told the winner and I'm sitting here getting my hopes up, who knows? But
Uh,
I don't know when you find out. I haven't
do,
heard anything yet, so.
do you know who you're up against?
It's the guys from U2, which it's, hefty shoes to fill there.
Of course.
Um, it's I don't know any of the other LDs personally. I've met some of them at LDI recently and at other conventions. I believe Styx, the LD for Styx is on there. Um, I looked at the categories when I got nominated and I've been so busy I haven't really looked back,
Yeah.
but it was a good group of folks there and great shows. So
You know, people always say that awards are not meaningful or whatever until you get nominated for one. I mean, then it's like really like, wow, people actually think I'm
yeah,
doing a good job. This is really cool. You know,
yeah.
to be acknowledged is always cool, you know, by your
And
peers.
that's really the biggest part. Yeah, I don't, it'd be nice to win it, but I mean, just getting nominated is a great acknowledgement, and I am very appreciative of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, um we were talking before we started recording, and you said that you're kind of taking a breath for a minute here and figuring out your next steps. And I think some of your bigger acts are not touring right away. Uh, Demi Lovato's recording this year, right?
That's the word on the street that she's working on a new album. So it's a bunch of one-offs until that kind of
Yeah,
gets legs.
yeah. And so 22 or 23 though was a big year for you, right?
Very busy, yeah. Lots of big artists on that one for main projects.
Like what? Name drop.
Um, Brandi Carlile, I was a designer for Brandi Carlile, so I was touring with her, and she was opening for Pink for some stadium runs. So that was
Oh,
a
geez.
fun direct support run on
Really
that.
fun. Had you ever done
Yeah.
stadium shows before?
I had as a tech, so it
Yeah.
was really kind of fun. I mean, it's just a show, but it's bigger.
Yeah.
And then I didn't have the design challenge of designing the full stadium rig because
Yeah.
that's usually like the big things. So, I mean, Baz and Silent House and Dan Norman, and they did a great job of like providing a great playground for me to work in.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of coming in and figuring out how to make that work for the show we were doing.
But even house
That
lights
was
going
fun.
out in an audience that big, you know, a stadium
Yeah.
audience, like that had to be a real buzz.
I mean, it's during the summer, so it's
Oh,
pretty light out
oh, so it was
still.
still light
It's
because
a
you were
very
the opener.
gradual
Yeah.
house lights out. It's a
Yeah.
natural, yeah.
Yeah. Ah,
So it
well.
didn't have that much weight
I'm
to it,
looking
but
for the big dream here and I ain't finding it.
no, no, I'm
It just
sorry.
seems
No,
like,
it
you know,
is.
the bigger things get, the more of a just a real like feeling you get from it. Like, whoa, this is so cool. But you're right, like
There
because
were
you're
definitely
starting in the
moments
light
during the
still.
show, though. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, and it's a harder position when you're the support act because everyone there isn't there to see your act.
yeah,
Like they might get drawn in or grab some parts of it or know of the artist, but that's not like who they're there to sing along with.
I see.
That's not
Yeah,
their shirt they're there to buy. So I mean,
yeah,
getting that audience connection is a bit harder at
yeah.
that
I
level,
get it.
that artist.
Yeah, I
Um,
get it.
but some of the smaller solo shows that she does, where it's a more intimate crowd of really dedicated fans.
Yeah, her
That's when you
fans.
get
Yeah,
the hairs that stand up on when
yeah,
you're running cues and
yeah. Who else this year?
Idina Menzel. I was
Okay.
working with Idina Menzel as the lighting programmer. She was doing a bunch of Pride Parade festival appearance things. So Michael Berger designed those, and I smashed some buttons and made it work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I lit a booth for CES, bunch of corporate stuff. I'm sure if I sat and I looked at like my invoices, I'd be like, oh yeah, that's another thing I worked
Yeah.
on.
Right. Right.
It was just a very busy nonstop year. When I wasn't on one show, I was flying to the next one and actively working on drawings. So I was
Right.
typically juggling 2 to 3 projects at a time.
Yeah, I was wondering, what do you, because you went to school, for all the drafting and all of that stuff, like what do you enjoy doing more? Do you prefer being in a tour bus and smashing buttons like you said, or sitting at a drafting table or a computer and designing?
I like the whichever one I'm not currently doing, I feel like.
That's a
Like
good answer.
when I'm on tour, I wanna be working from home instead.
Yeah.
Like work on drafting. Like right now I'm working on a rendering thing from home and I'm like I hate sitting in my apartment 40 hours a week, like
Yeah.
drawing stuff. Like I want to be out like working on a show. And then I
Yeah.
go work on a show. I'm like, I wish I could be drafting. And I guess it's whichever one I'm not currently doing.
Yeah.
Um,
That makes perfect sense. You're a woman.
but I I want
Yeah.
what I don't have.
Yeah, exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I do enjoy all of it for different reasons. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's the I get I tend to get stuck on the negative part of what I'm doing and not enjoying the thing I love sometimes. And I'm constantly having to stop myself, remind myself, like, stop it.
Yeah.
You love this.
Yeah.
Like this is the thing you love. Stop worrying about that other thing that's worrying you. Like
Well,
you
just
asked for this.
think of some of the jobs that some of your friends do or your family or whatever, and then start comparing notes again, and then you'll go, this ain't so bad. This is
Yeah.
pretty good, really. Like what I'm doing right this moment is great. I love it. Yeah. But I mean, it's easy. It's easy to fall into that, like wanting more of something, and then you get it, and then you go, why did I want all this stuff? Why did I want it so
Yeah.
much? And I remember when you went through it specifically, more so than most of the people I knew, and I got to see you once a week on the Zoom calls, and so I remember you were in a real downer because you didn't have any work, and then I remember you coming out of COVID going, oh my God, I got so much work. I'm ready to shoot myself. Like, this is insane. I need a break.
Yeah, and it
And,
really hasn't stopped and
but that was
it's
two really severe
yeah.
extremes there, too. That was just like from 0 to 100 miles per hour, like instantly. And then it never slowed down.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Like what are some of your favorite moments? Like what are some of the really cool things that have happened in the past couple of years since COVID, since you came back out of resting, and like what are those like sort of pinch me things that keep you going? This is such a great gig.
Yeah, my first project when things opened up, first touring thing was with Maks and Val. They're two dancers from Dancing with the Stars, and I toured
Oh,
with one
okay.
of them before. They were doing they have these tours that they occasionally do and they produce them and promote them themselves. And they needed a designer who's going to travel with it, and so they called me up. So it was me and the two guys from the show and two other dancers and a stage manager and a band. And
Really?
yeah, and like
You
it's a
all
lot of
traveled
fun
together,
and
gig to
we
gig.
just traveled together, just us, and it was very guerrilla theater sort of because we just walked in with whatever they had available. Like, sorry, all of the wardrobe and props were in suitcases that we, flew with, and it was just,
That's
it's
so
back to
fun.
the basics, yeah. And it just really reminded me of why I do this and what it came from, and even if you have 8 par cans, you still have to make a show, and it was really just great to get back in touch with that.
Well, and the camaraderie, the fact that, everyone is so close in such close quarters and we're all like rolling up our sleeves and making a show happen, that stuff's
Yeah,
really fun. It's like,
yeah.
uh, I've been through similar situations where, sometimes it's who you're doing it with, as much as what you're doing, right? That makes a huge difference. So yeah,
Yeah, and
that's
it was also different because there was such access to the talent. Because now
yeah,
it's like, like, touring with the artists I work with, I never see them, I never talk to them, I never really get that interaction.
feedback.
So it was just nice to be back where it was a very, collaborative state of being, like they could immediately tell you and give you feedback on a thing or just go like, hey, I have an idea. And
Yeah.
just having that sort of connection to the person I was working for. It's
Yeah, I mean,
nice.
sitting down at breakfast the next morning and go, "What'd you like about last night? What'd you hate about last night? What, I had this idea. What do you think?" And then all of a sudden, the next night is completely different than last night, and then you do it again the next morning at breakfast, and you go, "Okay, like what should we change from that one?" I mean, that's got to be a lot of fun. That's a whole
Yeah,
different way
it's
of
a
doing things.
and it's a connect. I really love that connection when I get that with an artist because I don't get that very frequently, and it's not very common.
Hmm.
But when I worked with Jared Leto, a lot of people kind of joke around about like him and don't take him seriously, but it was really amazing to work with him because he had such an artistic background and
Hmm.
had such a cinematic background that he had conversations about what he wanted the show to look like constantly. And
Hmm.
it was a constantly evolving process. So it was really nice to just have that connection with the artist who knows what they want or doesn't know, or like knows what they don't want, and have that conversation constantly and just have that process. It just was such a gift to be able to do that with an artist.
I always wonder with designers if you prefer having collaboration with the artist, like having an artist who really loves to get involved. And, I'll go all the way back to the old days. I'm Canadian, so Triumph, an old Canadian rock band who the drummer, Gilmore, was always incredibly actively involved in the show design and the lasers. And, like he basically sat with the production manager and the design team and said, what are we doing? Let's do this. Let's do this. And he was very much a part of the collaborative team. Um, and so I always like to understand whether you prefer that or you prefer an artist who just says, I don't care, make it look good, you know?
I mean, it's fun to have that blank canvas of just make it look dope.
Yeah.
I like to it's fun because like you are your own boss, but at the same time, when they if they give feedback, do they really have a language that they're giving it in?
Yeah.
Like, do they know how to have that conversation? Or when they say, I want it brighter, I want this darker,
Yeah.
I want that bigger,
Yeah.
and they don't have the right words to elaborate on what that is unless you pry it out of them,
Yeah.
if they even know, and then you try a thing and they're like, no. So it's nice to have an artist who has that immediate input
Hmm.
before you have to go through all the guesswork, and has that conversation and has developed a language, because at that point they've developed a language and like learned different like words and vocabulary to be able to express themselves, and they come
Doesn't
in
that
with
just make them
images
more
and
dangerous though? Once they learn a tiny little bit, now they're suddenly smarter than you and they're telling you how to design the
I
show.
it's nice to have that collaboration because I'm here for them, because the
Hmm.
artist is going to have an opinion regardless. So it's nice if it's an informed opinion and one that they can speak about well,
Hmm.
instead of, I don't like it. We don't, you obviously don't know how to do this job. You need to go.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you try to defend something, they can actually understand what's going on and understand why it happened.
Yeah.
Instead of, you don't know how to do your job, we're firing you.
That's true. That makes sense. So, what do you think your superpower is?
Um, Funny faces. No,
You are pretty good at that. Yeah, you're pretty
yeah.
good at that.
I think my superpower is just working with what I have.
Yeah.
Like I'm not that needy designer who's like, these substitutions are outrageous and like this will never work. Like I'll look at the substitutions and go like, oh, this sucks. But like,
Yeah.
how can I make it
But you make it
not
work.
suck or suck less? Yeah, you just
Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah. No, I mean that's actually incredible because we all know the other people.
Yeah.
And, if I don't have the XYZ A9, my show will not be the same. Don't give me
Yeah,
the A8.5. I need the A9, or my show just cannot
exactly.
exist.
And
And
it also lends more impact to when I do, stand my ground and say, no, like this is a thing I need,
yeah,
because like, oh, well, she never does that. She must really need this.
yeah, yeah, that
So it
makes
definitely
sense.
helps when I actually need a thing.
Well, I think being vendor friendly is not a bad thing too. Like actually being able to talk to the vendor and saying, "Hey, I realize you don't have these. I'm totally willing to take these ones instead. But then could you maybe fix this thing over here for me, and it becomes a negotiation or a trade-off,
Yeah.
it gives you a little bit of leverage because you've been so kind on all the substitutions or whatever, right? So,
Yeah. And it also as a designer, it gives you a new place to try to approach the show from.
yeah,
Because it might not be the light that you had or wanted or had in mind, but
yeah,
it could offer you solutions to problems that you didn't realize, or give
yeah,
you
that
more
makes sense.
options to play with.
Yeah. Yeah, we touched a couple of minutes ago on, just, and I was making fun of it a little bit, but how you went from like really being down because you had no work, and to, really being down because you were so floored with work. But I paid attention, and I pay attention to all my friends on this topic. Um, what is that sound? Is that on your side,
I
or
don't
is that
know.
Sarah's mic on?
I think that's
I think
Sarah's
Sarah's
mic.
Me.
mic's on and she's listening to a video. Yeah, I could hear a video
There
playing in the
it
background.
is.
It was Sarah, the lovely Sarah, watching cartoons while she's listening to our podcast. Um,
Diligent work. Someone's
yeah.
got to do it.
So I was, it just got so much quieter. It's so nice. What a
Mm,
professional podcast we're doing now. Isn't this
this is
amazing?
so zen.
um, but I was paying attention, and I pay attention a lot on especially on social media. Like I feel like, I need to watch out for people for some reason. I don't know why, but you became a part of our fairly regular Zoom group on the weekly happy hours that we were doing
I miss
during
those.
COVID. Yeah, I do. I actually do. I was going to say I do and I don't, because COVID was such a terrible time and stuff, but there were a lot of good things about COVID. I think the reset for our industry has proven to be incredible for most
Yeah.
people. There are certainly some businesses that have not fared as well, but for most
There's some
people, I think.
infrastructure that's hurting right now,
Oh,
for sure.
absolutely. And I think
Still.
there are some people who are hurting. I'm sure you know a bunch of them, and I know a bunch of them. And that's kind of where I'm going with this is, I noticed you were one of the few really brave people, I think, who was willing to talk about it. What the impact of COVID has taken, what the toll has taken on me, and then again, when we all went back to work really rapidly and we were at 100 miles an hour, what that did to you. And you talked about it a lot on social media. And, to me, the whole mental health thing, like, I know that people are trying to set up organizations and different ways of helping people, and that's great. But I think there also has to be just friend reach outs, like, pay attention. Pay attention when someone's hurting, or when someone has an issue, or when someone, may need a phone call, or may need a hug, or may need a visit, or whatever it is, right? So,
Yeah.
you know, I know you think a lot about this stuff, and I know mental health is important to you, and is a big deal. So tell me your thoughts.
Oh, so many thoughts. I think it's very important that it is this topic that is openly spoken about because,
Yeah.
I've dealt with it for years myself, with depression and, abuse of addictions. And it was very stigmatized for a long time. So, I mean, even in high school, when, they wanted me to go to therapy and take medication, I thought that it meant that something was wrong with me
Yeah.
because society said something's wrong with me. And I fought getting help for a long time.
Yeah.
So I do love that we can talk about it openly and that it should be talked about openly.
Well, we
Yeah,
all
I
know
mean,
what happens when it isn't. I mean, we
yeah,
know, I'm sure you know people. I know a lot of people that should be here today and aren't. And
yeah,
because either they felt like they had nobody to talk to, or they literally had nobody to talk to
yeah,
about their problems, or their problems were just so dark that they just didn't want to talk to anyone about it. They were embarrassed, or hiding something, or whatever it was. And it's just not good that
yeah,
people feel like that's their best choice. And maybe at that moment it is, like, maybe things are flying around so bad and you're so caught up in all of this that you know you just don't know any way out. Like, that is the only way
yeah.
out, right?
And it doesn't help that with social media, you see everyone at their best. You know, you see everyone on vacation and having nobody posts a picture of them sad crying or ugly crying or
Yeah.
depressed about a thing. Nobody posts, like, oh, I didn't get the job, like
Yeah.
unless they're looking for attention or, in case it is a cry for help of some sort. But typically you see people like, oh my God, hashtag, blessed life, bottomless mimosas, us on vacation, like this is us at the beach, whatever happens to be like the good life they're having.
Yeah.
And it's hard not to look at that and say, I am less than that. I don't have that. What's wrong with me? Like I'm having such a hard time. Why does everyone else have it easier?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So I really try to be honest with my posts and post more openly about the bad days and try to normalize that, like, success isn't easy and success isn't happy and success isn't what people make it look like, or whatever your definition of success is,
Mm-hmm.
um, everything worthwhile takes work and it, involves giving up things. So it's just trying to find your happy place where what's more important to you. And for me, my career's always kind of been that priority. Like
Yeah.
even above my mental health, I'm guilty absolutely 100% of
We
prioritizing
all are.
my
I
work
think
over mental
almost
health.
every human is. Almost every
Yeah.
human is. We're, oh, because as long as you're busy, you're also not thinking about those things for the most part, right? So I
Yeah.
think it's a distraction too.
Well, even the work stuff can get overwhelming because I find myself juggling multiple projects. And I was on a show a couple weeks ago, and I was like, I'm 2 emails away from like a nervous breakdown,
Mm-hmm.
because like you're sitting locked in on one project and you're just watching all the emails come in on like 3 other projects, and your mind is just spinning of like, where am I going to find the time to do all of this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And getting caught in that, and then not being able to perform your best because you're there in those emails and on those projects. And
But are you ever envious of people who because I fall into the same thing, by the way, an awful lot. Like I'm just like I got to deal with everything, and I've got to fix everything, and I've got to take care of all of these things, and I'm constantly just this bottleneck of 8 billion things that are coming at me, right? And I know so many people who are just like, whatever, I'll get to that later. Whatever, whatever. That's not a big
is that
deal.
when you talk to them one on one, or is that the face that they're putting on to try to calm themselves down, or are they honestly just like okay with the world blowing up around them? Are they
I
so
get the
used to the world
feeling
blowing
it's
up?
the second one. I get the feeling that it's just they're able to shut everything off and just not give a shit. And I just am not able to do that. I don't have that gene in me. So I'm constantly, and as you get older, it turns from this sort of healthy stress to like a real unhealthy stress and worry about everything. I worry more today than I ever have in my life. And it's I believe it's an age thing, because it's not like I have more problems than I ever have in my life. So um yeah, I mean, I'm somewhat envious of people who just, they go off and they, roll up a joint or something and smoke it. And they're like, I don't give a shit. I'll get to that stuff tomorrow, or the next day. I'm going to take the week off. And
I do
I
find
don't
myself
get it.
having to take mental health days where I just feel like,
Yeah.
what, this isn't happening today. Like I'm not getting all this accomplished, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like there's times where I do have to stop down and say these deadlines aren't all going to get met because I can't do it all. I'm just going to sit and watch TV for an hour and play dumb games on my phone
Yeah.
and like just not deal with it. And part of it's avoidance, and the other part of it is just like taking that personal time to walk away and not focus on it.
Yeah.
And
Why is there
finding whatever that thing is for you.
why is it so prevalent in our industry? Like why is it, you know, things as simple as like abuse, drug abuse or whatever, substance abuse, or is it the lifestyle, the fact that you have a lot of downtime when you're driving along a road in a bus and you get to think about a lot of things and you start going down these spirals or whatever? Like, what do you think? Because it just seems like we get a lot more problems than maybe some
Yeah.
other occupations.
Um, there's definitely it's because it's not a corporate job. There's no, suit and tie. Like just the structure of the job itself is much looser than most businesses are.
Hmm.
Um, and I always joke around that nobody gets into this because they're a popular kid, like
Right.
it's a bunch of us weirdos that didn't quite have a place to fit in, and like a lot of us are
That's kind
trying
of
to
true.
avoid growing.
Yeah, that's kind of true, isn't
Yeah,
it? Yeah.
and like we're trying to avoid growing up, so like a lot of adults, that have families at home love not having to be home and be dad or be mom and not having to do all that stuff and just be able to be a kid.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of avoidance, I think. And there's people who are out there who genuinely love what they do and love being parents, but I mean, there is definitely a heavy leaning to like, oh my God, I don't have to be home to take out the garbage. I don't have to fix all this stuff. Like I don't have to do the kids' laundry. I don't have to take them to soccer practice. I'm just gonna like go to the bar with my guys on because that's what there is to do. And bars are common in every city.
Yeah.
Like there's liquor that's provided by production in most cases. It's a very, very, you know, carefree world as far as
Yeah.
that goes. Like, and you work so hard at work that you need to, blow off steam.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned to you in the intro, there's a guy in the industry who he's I believe he's a video tech, touring video tech. And I don't know him, but I'm Facebook friends with him. But I've never met him. I've never had a conversation with him. And there's two different things that have happened with this gentleman. I'm guessing he's probably in his early 50s, just by looking at pictures of him and stuff. Um, so one time last year, I was just laying around with my girlfriend, and I said, "Oh my God, you got to see this." She said, "What?" And I said, "This guy is basically killing himself on social media." And so he wrote a few long posts in a row that just ended with, "It's time, I'm sorry for all of the problems I've caused, and I'm gonna leave you all now." And then just disappeared for like 24 hours. And of course, all of his friends, family, followers, whatever they were commenting saying, "Does anyone know where he is? Does anyone know his address or his location right now? Can anyone track his phone? We got to get people there. Let's find him." And, you know, fortunately, he pulled himself out of the tailspin and saved himself. But, um, you know, one thing that I would say is there had to be signs earlier than that. And I didn't go back and read every post that he made for the weeks prior to that, but there obviously had to be signs, and somebody wasn't listening to those signs that were being thrown out there or didn't care. And so then secondly, he, same guy, started posting yesterday that he had suddenly become homeless. And all he had was 2 bags of stuff, clothes, whatever, belongings, and his car, which he was living in at that point and driving, and now it had broken down. And he was on the side of a road somewhere in Minnesota, which, of course, right now I believe is
Right.
probably minus lots. Like it's probably really cold there right now. Not a good place to be homeless in a car. And it was bizarre to me because the people who responded, and here's me reading all these posts and really caring and getting emotionally involved in this situation, right? And I don't even know the guy. But he's from our industry and I want to help him. That was just the instant thoughts that came to my brain was he's in our industry. I need to help this guy. And so, um, I was preparing to reach out to a good friend of mine in Minnesota who owns a bunch of businesses and is quite successful and is also very religious and would immediately jump to help someone. So I was going to get the guy to send me his PIN. So I knew his exact location. I was going to send it to my friend and say, "Send one of your employees over, pick him up, find him a place to sleep for a few days, get his car fixed, and I'll owe you a favor." And and he would have done it. That was going to happen quickly, right? But
Yeah.
the thing that floored me was just the responses that he was getting were very nice and kind, but none of them were very realistic. Like it was all, Google homeless shelters and try and find one near you and drive over there and you can stay there while it's okay. It's not demeaning or anything to get a reset in a homeless shelter. You know, you'll be fine. You'll have food and a warm place to sleep. And he's like, you might not be getting this. My car is broken down. If I
Yeah.
leave my car, I freeze to death. It's my only warmth right now. And I have less than $20 to my name. And so, you know, that's just not a good option right now. And, you know, he wasn't even asking for people to come and take care of him or help him or anything. He was just being real and telling the world his situation. There was never a single good suggestion made to him. And so somebody must have reached out in Messenger or something directly to him, because he said, you know, a very kind soul has helped me out. And fortunately, I don't have to freeze over the next few days, and I'll have a place to stay. And so it was a happy ending, but it just floored me, you know, that someone on social media can't get their network to rally a little more urgently
Yeah.
than that, you know?
Yeah,
And
and on social media, people are quick to offer, like advice, even if it's not really that advice that people are looking for.
advice,
A
not
lot of that
help.
just comes to, yeah, and it's hard too, because I mean, it sounds like they kind of waited until the last minute to ask for help, like a lot of us do,
True.
because it's hard to admit, like until you hit rock bottom of some sort, like I need help, whether it's with
Yeah.
addiction or mental or finances. It's hard to admit defeat until
Yeah.
it's too late. So it's about learning yourself and learning how to reach out earlier and say, like, or understand and like see certain triggering things and saying, like, look, I'm starting to feel a certain way. And I know typically when this happens, it just gets worse. Like, I need to, like start exercising more, or I need to start drinking less, or I need to, put more social events in my calendar and be around people,
All
and
good
just little
ideas, by the way.
things like that. Yeah, because it's not
All
just about,
things that are very helpful when you're in a tailspin.
yeah.
Yeah.
And because it's hard to reach out and call someone like one on one, be like, I'm not at my best, I don't know what to do, especially because the people you're reaching out to, yeah, at that point, if you're at that rock bottom, the people you're reaching out to aren't trained to deal with those sorts of things, and will probably say the wrong thing and not know
Hmm.
how to help. So it's about figuring out, when in your cycle where you are, and like if you're starting to slip somewhere, and say, like, just being around more people will help without having to say, like, I'm having a hard time. Just exposing yourself to the people in your life more frequently
Yeah.
kind of helps open up and relieves that, and it makes it easier to just bring up conversations of, like, I'm having a hard time with such and such, like this relationship is really giving me a hard time, like I think I'm drinking too much. Like my drinking has been a problem for me lately, and it's been something that I'm seeing. Like I'm not like, pass out drunk, like blackout drunk, but I'm
Hmm.
seeing that certain habits I'm starting to repeat. I'm like, all right, I need to stop drinking for a bit, because like I've done this before and I've seen where this goes. Like I don't want it to start affecting my work or my personal life. And talking with other friends, like they're doing the same thing. And like having
Yeah.
that open conversation of, like, yeah, I haven't been drinking for the past 3 months either, because like it was just, I was drinking too much.
Yeah. You know what happens with me, and I noticed this recently, and I really stopped it, was it at the end of a stretch. Like I used to be a heavy drinker when I was younger, but now at the age that I'm at now, like a really heavy night of drinking might be 3 glasses of wine, right? Like usually it's 1 glass of wine, I'm done.
Yeah.
Um, but what was happening is, if I had a stressful day, immediately 5 o'clock hits or whatever, and I'm opening a bottle of wine and pouring a glass of wine. And I probably only have 1 glass. I might have two if it's been a really bad day. But the next day's a bad day. Boom, I reopen the same bottle of wine.
Mhm.
And then I find, okay, it's Wednesday and I've been drinking wine 5 days in a row. It's not a good thing, right? Like, so
Yeah.
I've and I don't set rules where it's like, okay, no wine on weeknights or whatever. I think some people do have to set rigid rules like that, but for me it's just like, I don't need wine to make me feel better after a stressful day, cuz when you start creating those associations like that, you're
It's
basically
hard
just
to
saying
break
it's
it.
okay to do those things, right? So, yeah,
And for me, like it's hard for me to stop at that one glass, because I'm like, oh,
yeah.
I feel better now. So like a second glass will
I want to
also
feel
feel
more
great.
better. I want
Yeah,
to feel
I want
more
to
and more
keep
better.
feeling better
Yeah,
until
yeah,
it's like 2 a.m. and I'm sitting there on like, sitting in Vectorworks, pushing the same geometry around for like the past hour, going like, I'm so tired, I'm exhausted, and my brain just doesn't want to do anything. And
yeah,
I've wasted my whole evening to red wine.
yeah,
Because
yeah.
there's been those nights. We've all been there in some way or another. But I mean, I've definitely found myself there where I'm like, why did I have that first glass? Because that first
Yeah.
glass did it.
You know, the thing is, unfortunately or fortunately, I read a lot now, especially when it comes to, um, remarkably things like longevity. You know, as you get into your 50s, you start thinking, okay, I used to think 50 was really old when I was young, right? Like I used to go, oh God, 50, that person's ancient. They're going to die
Ancient,
any
yeah.
minute, right? But then when you're in your 50s, you're going, okay, hang on a sec. Like I ain't ready to go yet. I got a lot of stuff to do still. And so I pay a lot of attention to health and longevity and diet and exercise and all of the really boring but really important things. And, unfortunately for all of us, spoiler alert, um, alcohol isn't very good. And,
Yeah.
alcohol, there's
But
just
it's
no
so
way to.
enjoyable. That's the
I
hard part.
know, I know. And it makes other people much more enjoyable too.
Yeah,
It makes them
exactly.
tolerable and it solves so many problems. But the problem is
Yeah,
like, it's just not very good. It does a lot of
yeah,
bad things to really important parts of your biology.
yeah.
And, it's gotten down to a point now where, the average male, I think, can do 4 drinks a week. And the average female is roughly half of that, 2 drinks in a
I'm
week.
so screwed.
And anything they think that, the experts that I've read on are like, that's minimal damage. That's like damage that isn't going to kill you. It's not really going to make a big difference, but you're still doing damage. Any amount of alcohol
Yeah,
does damage, but that's tolerable. Anything above that, you're actually, you're knocking years off your life. You're literally, every drink above 2 a week is a couple of days off the end of your life or something, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm sorry to be such a downer, but
Oh, that's
again,
all
I
right.
read
I
way
mean,
too
I
much.
part part of my thing is trying to find alternatives to that. So, one of my recent purchases is a sauna blanket.
Oh, very
And
cool.
it is so great because you just sit there and you sweat out all the toxins and stuff anyway. But you can't do anything for half an hour. You have to sit there in this blanket for half an hour to 45 minutes and not do
Yeah,
anything else because you
that's
can't
really
do
good.
anything else.
Yeah.
And it's really great. The hard part is finding that chunk of time to do that,
Do you
but
also
it's
do the
great to just
cold?
sit there.
Like, have you
The
ever
what?
tried a cold plunge?
I've tried the ice bath thing. Yeah,
It's
it
hard.
is,
It's
it's
brutal.
hard.
Just
Yeah.
do the cold shower. Like what, every day, one of the things I do is, you do your hot shower and get all clean and stuff. And then, just turn it all the way to cold and do a couple of minutes at the end of your shower, just like that. And that has so much benefit. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Again, you can deny all of the science on it, but there's a ton of science on that right now. It's not just a new trend, that all the rich people are doing or the Hollywood people or whatever. It's a very good thing. My house in Canada, I kept threatening to do it last year, but I didn't. This year I'm going to do it. So about probably, I don't know, 150 yards out the back of my house, there's a little pond, and it's fed by a stream coming down from the mountain from the glacier. So it's friggin' cold, right?
Yeah.
And my son is a lunatic, so he'll swim in there. But I won't even stick my foot
Nice.
in it, right? But my nephew does cold plunges in that pond, and I think I'm going to start doing it this summer. So I'm going to go walk down there, do a cold plunge for like 2 or 3 minutes, and then shiver my way back up to the house and jump in the hot tub.
Oh man, I would get so sick.
Really?
Had that, yeah, headlines would be like Emily dies of pneumonia after cold plunging. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think cold plunging gives you pneumonia.
yeah.
I'm just saying.
I just have no immune system.
Yeah. Really, you get
Yeah.
sick real easy?
Oh, so easy. Oh my God. Yeah.
Huh. Well, I can fix that too. Next
Yeah.
podcast, I'll give you a
Okay.
whole
Yes.
long I'll give you a whole long talk on how to keep yourself healthier, but really a lot of it starts with just making sure that you have the right nutrition, the right vitamins and minerals, really. And, a lot of it starts with D3. Like this country
Yeah.
and the world are D3 deficient. And that's why, COVID hit some people a lot harder than other people. It was one of the really big reasons. I mean, there were other reasons, obesity and, drug abuse or just weakened systems, right? But
Yeah.
but D3 was a big one, and zinc is another one that people are usually deficient on, and there's all kinds of other things too. But
I take so many vitamins. It's
do you? So do I.
oh
Yeah,
yeah. I'm
I
like a
drink.
traveling pharmacy when I go on the road. It's
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean as long as you're taking the right stuff, and magnesium's another good one. I mean there's all the stuff that really helps you just survive some of this stuff, some of the stresses that we put on our body, and it also helps offset the
yeah.
alcohol and other bad things that we do.
Yeah. I mean the work
But
stress, I mean between the cortisol levels and the lack of sleep and stuff like that. And even like with sleep, yeah, when you're sleeping is when your brain has a chance to flush out all of the blood that's been pumping through there because there are no veins or arteries in there.
yeah,
It's like weird little things like that, like certain things we deprive ourselves of when we're working 90 hours a week or you're
yeah,
traveling and
sleep's a big
even
one.
just traveling. Yeah, yeah, I mean, just not having that regular cycle in forget the name
Yeah,
of that cycle,
I
but just
I I wear this. It's called a
oh
Aura
yeah,
ring,
yeah, I've seen
and
those.
the other one that people do is the whoop strap or whatever. But um, you don't realize how screwed up your sleep is until you start monitoring it and going, Jesus Christ, I'm supposed to do what, 7 hours, in a row?
Yeah.
And I pay so much more attention to that stuff, and I didn't know what HRV was in the past, and now I pay attention to my HRV balance every day. What am I doing? And it's amazing when you do positive things, how it impacts some of those things right away. You start seeing positive response back from it. So, yeah, I mean, admittedly, I've gone over the edge on a lot of this stuff. Like
Yeah.
I'm paying way too much paying too much notice to all of it. But my dad died at 52. I've already outlived my dad of a heart attack. I've already outlived him, and I pay attention to my heart and all of those other things. So, but yeah, mental health is the big one that I think is much darker and maybe harder to spot. Like you can spot when somebody's getting unhealthy, but you can't always spot when their mental health is impacted.
Yeah.
And I think as good humans, we need to pay attention. We gotta, even if you don't know the person, but you happen to be their friend on Facebook, you're connected on Facebook, do something, like I feel like I want to help this guy, I may actually still connect him to my friend, and who knows, he could have a whole start of a new career by working for one of my buddies' companies or something and get out of the touring business because it's obviously not really healthy for him right now. So,
Yeah.
you know, but anything else you want to talk about, or have we
Oh
pretty much
man.
exhausted ourselves?
I think we've covered a pretty good
We did, yeah. We went all
topic,
the way
yeah.
from your favorite topic, women in lighting, to mental
To
health
mental well-being.
and
I think those are the important things to hit on. I mean, being able
absolutely,
to talk about, inclusiveness and open-mindedness and setting examples for next generations and,
yeah.
keeping an eye on mental health. God, like mental health, abuse, like substance abuse and like
Hmm.
housing issues are like three hot topics for me.
Yeah.
Like there's so many issues, just deep down in this country that, can be fixed in time if we put the right efforts in.
Yeah. Well, and in our industry, I think education is a big one, like
Yeah.
just like the one of the things that I think COVID really exposed was how unprepared, especially roadies were. They because they were 1099s, but they didn't necessarily have their own business, and they weren't prepared. They didn't have a reserve of cash. They didn't even have a place to live, a lot of them. Like a lot of them
Yeah.
didn't even have a proper apartment to live in because they were
I've
just
I've done that.
jumping from
Yeah,
gig to gig to gig, right?
I've
And
definitely had sections of my life where things are in a storage unit and just I'll deal with
yeah,
it next year.
I was going to ask you, by the way, what did your parents say when you said, by the way, I'm going to go on the road and tour with rock bands?
Well, I mean, my dad's a nuclear engineer with like 8,000 master's degrees.
Jesus.
Only like six. It's yeah, and yeah, he's like retired military,
So he
very
loved when you said you're
regimented.
going into theater in school,
Yeah,
right?
he was like, "But you're so smart. Why are you
Yeah.
doing this?"
Yeah.
And so it was that battle for years. Even like when I got
Yeah.
my degree, like I sat down, I'm like, all right, we're gonna go over two phase versus three-phase power, and we're gonna sit here and we're gonna balance these racks, and like we're gonna look at this rigging plot here, like how do we create a bridle, like the Pythagorean theorem that you use, like is it a dynamic workload or a static working load, like going through them, like say, all right, so you're mixing colors. Is it additive or is it subtractive color mixing? Like the different science to what I do that you don't always
Yeah.
think it's the science, but there's so much science in what we
Yeah.
do and physics,
Uh-huh.
and trying to explain that to him and showing him Vectorworks and the stuff I build in Cinema 4D. And he sees that I use a lot more of my brain. So
Yeah.
he's happier about it.
But they also probably
Um,
worry about you, going out, or at least did when you were younger, going out on the road with a bunch of crazy men in a tour bus and going to strange places around the
I don't think
world
they
and
were
stuff.
I don't think they were really that worried about me in
No.
that concern.
Huh.
No, because I mean, like I've always kind of been able to hold my own, and
Yeah.
growing up with brothers, like dealing with a group of guys
That's
isn't
true too.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's more
true.
about like traveling to other parts of the world. Like, oh, is it safe there? Like, are you gonna get
Yeah.
kidnapped? Are you gonna have all your stuff robbed?
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, but my
So,
dad's usually traveled to those places already and has a hot tip.
yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Before I let you go, who would you like me to get on Geezers who I haven't had on yet?
Ooh.
It could even
Oh
be a
man, you've
woman.
had a lot of. Lots of, I'm trying to think of other young ladies like myself who could use.
Well, there's a not so young lady coming
Um,
on in a couple of weeks. She's a definite
mhm.
geezette. Marcia Stern is coming on.
Love her.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that'll be
Solid
fun.
choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll be fun. I've been friends with
Um,
Marcia for 100 years, and I've threatened to do it forever. So she's pretty excited to come on and talk. And she can talk. So I might have to
yeah.
reserve a little extra time for that one.
Yeah. Lauren King, formerly Lauren Sego, she got married. She is a younger LD designer person, but she does a lot of extracurricular, like outdoorsy stuff and has a lot of interesting stories.
That's
She's
cool.
like, one of those cliff jumping, parachute jumping, skiing, crazy.
I like
Like
those people.
yeah. I love watching like her life on social media. I don't know where she has the energy,
Yeah.
but she'd be great.
Well, Sarah just scribbled down her name, so she may reach out to you for a connect or something to put us
Excellent.
together,
Yeah.
and we'll reach out to her and see if the credentials fit. It's not like, I
Yeah.
mean, all we're looking for is people who have great stories and who have something to say. Like I don't care whether you want to sit and talk about health all day, or you want to talk about lights all day, or you want to talk
Yeah.
about
Have
fishing.
you had
I don't
Dan
care.
Hadley on? Because I think Dan and Tess would
No,
be a great like dual appearance. That'd be awesome to have the two of them on together.
no, I don't
I would
know
watch
Dan
that for
Hadley.
sure. My goodness. Okay,
Who is Dan
we'll talk.
Hadley?
Dan Hadley. He's LD for the Foo Fighters and many other, but that's his big.
Oh, yeah.
He's
John
also a
Wiseman
delightful
actually
human
threatened
being.
to connect us too at one point, but I don't know Dan. Yeah, I have no relationship with him or anything. So yeah, that would be
Oh
a great
man,
one. Foo
he's a
Fighters
delightful
are
human
awesome.
being. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Wiseman told me the same thing, and I don't know. I guess I just never followed up on it or something, but we will now. So
Excellent.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's a
you
good
two
one.
should know. Yes, you guys should know each other.
Well, thank you so much, Emily. I'm so happy we finally did this, and it's
Yeah.
nice to see your smiling face. And uh, keep me updated what you're up to, or I'll follow you on social media. I'm sure I'll see something. But
Sounds good.
yeah, let me know. All right.
Excellent.
Thanks
Thank
so
you so much
much.
for having me.
All right, cool.
Okay.
Have a good one.
Okay. You too. Thanks. Bye.